Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is the Friday news dump. The final news stories you're going to get for the week until next Monday, or Mucking Fun Day as we call it around here. This is the father-daughter news podcast where we cover the news 10 to 15 minutes before we start. We look at our headlines and then we do it without any caffeine in our body. Don't forget to subscribe and all that stuff. Let's get into our headlines. Today on Before Coffee, Olympic star shows medal deteriorating after a week, and Disney Plus is cracking down on password sharing in September.
And a woman is found dead in the Chicago O'Hare Airport baggage area, and we talk about this week's up and down stock markets.
France is experiencing one of the weakest wheat harvests in the last 40 years, with a 2024 harvest also expected to be lower.
And Hurricane Debbie peters out in the Northeast, and we update the tornado warnings in New York and New Jersey, and we talk about this concept of stolen valor.
Designed to tear families apart, a shocking film exposes abuse and infanticide.
Those stories and more, which is National Passionfruit Day. So if you have a passion for fruit, get out there on October 9th, August 9th, 2024, and Before Coffee.
Okay, let's go ahead and cover my first two stories. Quite short ones, so I put them together. We talked about last week, or that maybe it was this week, about getting your own gold, but maybe you don't want one after the quality of the Olympic medals seems to be being questioned after athletes at the Paris 2024 have shown that it was deteriorating after a week. This is from the Independent.co by Jamie Braidwood. Nyjah Huston said his Olympics bronze was already looking rough a week after standing on the podium in Paris. Nyjah Huston, who came third in the men's skateboard street, said in a video posted to Instagram that his bronze was already chipped and losing its color days after winning. He said the medal was looking like it went to war and back, and added that it was not as high quality as you'd think, as the bronze appeared to have rubbed off. The Olympic medals handed out in Paris feature a piece of recycled scrap metal from the Eiffel Tower. Over 5,000 of them have been produced by the France Mint for the Games. Alright, so the Olympic medals look great when they're brand new, Houston said in a post to his 5 million followers. But after letting it sit on my skin with some sweat for a little bit and letting my friends wear it over the weekend, continued, before zooming in on the medal to show its condition, they are apparently not as high quality as you'd think. It's looking rough, I don't know. Olympic medals, we gotta step up the quality a little bit. While his bronze at Paris was his first medal at the Olympics, the 29-year-old has won skateboarding gold 12 times at the X Games and 6 times at the World Championships. The American has also won several silver and bronze medals across both competitions. Somebody replied to the commented on this article saying, "How do we tell him it's made of bronze?" So,
yeah, I'm just trying to tell you. You know what bronze is? Basically scrap metals put together, like zinc and tin and copper. Yeah.
It's all the things that we are used for these metals are actually very expensive metals, but they're also very soft metals, and they're not very. They aren't lasting a long time.
They're very conductive, though.
Yeah,
you can conduct electricity like crazy.
They're used for electronics. I mean, bronze is technically not copper. Copper is actually the more expensive one there. But it's a combination of copper.
Yeah.
So it's going to do the thing that copper does and bronze does, which is what? Turn green. It gets oxidized. You should know this by now, guys.
And silver turns black.
Yeah.
Silver is a very precious metal, but it turns black.
I thought it also turned a little yellow too, or is that after a long time it turns black?
No, silver silver tarnishes black. I guess it could turn whatever.
No, because I have silver keys on my clarinet, and they got exposed to the elements, and they turned
It might just be
Tarnished
silver plated.
silver is what it's called, right? The more yellowish silver. But it's not, obviously they're not full silver keys. They're...
Right, there's silver and there's silver plating, which is a very thin coat of silver over the top. It could be just covering copper, and that's why it turned it a strange color.
But that's what most of these metals are, by the way. Silver and copper blend
pretty well.
Most of these metals are plated. They're not full, we just
gold...
chunked some gold out.
Finish your story. I'm talking too much.
You're talking about gold, yeah. But no, that's the end of the
gold
story,
mills
really.
are 1 point. That is, the gold mills I just looked up are 92% silver, and they only have 1.34% gold in them. Yeah. So when people bite into them, they're not getting that teeth in that, just in that first layer, the plating. Yeah. They're electroplated. They're put on there by electrolysis.
Yeah, to be fair, silver is also pretty soft, but not as soft as gold. So.
Oh yeah, gold is definitely one of the softest, heaviest metals. It's very heavy also. Very pliable.
That's why the metals are even heavy, is because they're silver metals to begin with.
You can't bend iron and it has no conductivity. It's the very opposite of gold, right?
Yeah. Alright, in my next story, just a quick one again. I hope you're not saving your passwords on Disney Plus because they are going to start punishing you for it. Disney CEO Bob Iger, who doesn't make enough money, owning probably the majority of all media in the US and probably the world, is saying, hey, stop sharing your passwords. I want your $7 a month from each one of you. This is by Zach Zizwin on Kotaku. Since Disney Plus launched a few years ago, people have been sharing their passwords with family and friends, letting them log in and watch Star Wars and more at no extra cost. But those days are coming to an end, according to Disney CEO Bob Iger, who is still alive, I thought he died, during a recent earnings call. One day Bob will be out. 2019, Disney Plus launched and quickly grew into one of the biggest streaming platforms around. Over time, Disney has continued to raise prices for the service as it works towards making it a profitable product. Something that just recently happened, actually. And one tactic Disney's been mulling over for some time has been cracking down on password sharing. Disney first threatened to do this in 2023 and then started cracking down in June of this year. But only in some countries. Now it seems like everyone is going to be barred from freely sharing their account with friends and family members. As reported by IGN on August 7th, Iger talked openly about the plans for revamp its password crackdown efforts in September, while also claiming to investors that the company hadn't received any backlash from customers. We've been talking a lot about adding the technology feature that we need to basically make it higher return, higher margin business, and more successful business. We're doing that right now, said Iger during recent earnings call. We started our password sharing initiative in June, mentioned Iger. That kicks in earnest in September. By the way, we've had no backlash at all to the notification that have gone out and to the work that we've already been doing. Earlier this week, Disney announced it was raising prices on Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. This is the fourth price increase the service has received since it's launched. So it's only been out for like 4 years, and they're already price hiking it every single year since it's been out. Yeah, see this one? Okay, so this is what I thought. The service was received since launch. It means that starting in October, the ad-free version of Disney Plus will cost you more than double what it cost back in 2019. Back then, Disney Plus was just $7 a month. Today, it's $16 a month. Huh? What in the hell? This is why yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. But hey, Disney is actually making money off its streaming services now, which is something other companies like Paramount can't claim. Well, Paramount barely has anything on it. All it took was doubling prices, cracking down on people sharing their accounts, and likely angering a lot of folks in the process. But the number goes up, so who cares? Woo! Instead of $5 billion, Iger's gonna make $30 billion. Woo, yeah! Woo, great, good job, Bob.
Oh hell yeah!
Good for you.
I'm looking at Disney Plus. There's nothing there I would consider watching.
You have to be a Star Wars fan. You have to be a Marvel fan. They've bought both of those two things. Fox Century, 20th Century Fox. They bought those guys out too. All of the big
their main page.
big franchises are owned by Disney for the most part. I think the only thing that isn't owned by Disney is Amazon has rights to Lord of the Rings, for example. Warner Bros. Has rights to Harry Potter, for example. So those are some of the bigger things I can think of. But Disney does have a lot of things.
I don't see anything
and
on
I would
Disney
advise
Plus
you right
watch.
now, instead of paying $16 a month for Disney Plus, which may or may not just get deleted one day and you won't have access to anything, I think it'd be better just to buy some DVDs. I'm definitely going on that side.
You own them forever.
Yeah, unfortunately, I forget what company it was, but there was a company out there. I think it might have been a video game company that decided, oh no, you don't own that anymore. And we deleted it off our database. And that was things people actually bought. So let's say you go on YouTube, you rent a movie or buy a movie to own on YouTube. Someday they might lose the licensing, and then you don't own that film you bought for like €7 back in 2020 because they lost the licensing to even show it on their platform anymore. And that's the worrying part about Disney. Yes, of course, Disney Plus owns all of these things, so they're probably not going to lose the licensing to it. But I still believe owning the media physically is way more important than paying your $16 whatever a month so you can watch, you know, Cinderella for the 15th time on repeat. But that's my opinion on that. On to your story.
And you can't. Well, my famous beef with Disney Plus, and they'll never get a nickel of my money, is I subscribed to them a couple of years ago when they had the Beatles movie, right? Remember when Peter Jackson made the Beatles Get Back and 21 hours of footage? Well, you know what? Let me get that free, you know, teasing subscription to Disney Plus so I can watch that. And then I can leisure when I feel like it. Well, I watched like half of one episode and they pulled it off. Said, oh, too many people are making copies of it. I'm like, yeah? Are you new to the world? I mean, what are you even thinking about here? And then he just pulls it off and doesn't even put it in syndication. Maybe they put it back because I just did a search and maybe it's back on Disney Plus, but it's too late for me. I'm not subscribing to your silliness.
And
my free subscription ran out and I said goodbye. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I'm just like, there's ways you can find these things. That's all I have to say. You don't have to do these.
Right.
It's easier to subscribe to Disney Plus, but you don't have to.
Yep. On to the money grab. That's all it is. Another money grab. Okay, so is it my story? Since I interrupted you too much. Let's go to Chicago O'Hare Airport, and we're on me, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I don't always hear you. Woman found dead in baggage area at Chicago O'Hare Airport after getting trapped in machinery. This is from Becky Longmire of People.com. People, we don't usually use them for a source, but hey, they popped up. Authorities confirmed a 57-year-old had been pronounced dead at the scene of the morning, Thursday, August the 8th. A 50-year-old woman was reportedly been dead in a baggage area at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. On Thursday, August 8th, the city's fire department was called to the location at approximately 7:45 a.m. local time. Spokesperson Larry Langford said, per Associated Press. The outlet said the woman, who has not been named, was found entangled in a conveyor system in a baggage room that wasn't accessible to the public. Langford told the publication that surveillance showed the woman in the baggage room at 2:27 a.m. She was seen around 5 hours later, police confirmed. Fell asleep in the baggage carousel, maybe? I don't know. According to ABC 7, the incident took place at Terminal 5 in the baggage area, which is an international terminal. Per CBS News, the incident didn't occur in a high security area, so it wouldn't have been considered a security breach. Police spokesperson Nathaniel Blackman told the AP that nobody saw the woman enter the room in the real time. The footage was only reviewed after her body was found. It had been reported the view only came into the room and nothing after that, so it's not known how exactly the accident took place. The Chicago Police Department and Chicago Fire Department didn't immediately respond when contacted by People. Per AP, U.S. Department of Labor spokesman Scott Allen said that an Occupational Health and Safety Administration official had confirmed the woman was not a worker at the airport. That is the OHSA or OSHA, which they pronounce incorrectly. Occupational Health and Safety Administration. Occupational Safety and Health Administration would be OSHA. Scott did not immediately respond to people's request for a comment, and that would be some guy named Scott. Anyway, there's your story. Not a whole lot of details. It's a weird story that happened on Thursday, so it's a whole week before week one. Yeah, I think it's probably somebody either homeless or one of the I can sleep on the luggage carousels and get away with it or something. Just speculation on my part. That's all.
I've always they watched that Toy Story 2 film where all the toys go through the luggage carousel, and they also wanted to try.
Oh yeah, maybe that's it. She was living vicariously through Toy Story. Okay, and other news. This is the news that kind of dominated the week, because if I would have reported this on Monday or Tuesday, I'd be going, "Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. The stock market's in free fall," and a lot of the headlines were like, "Kamala Harris has ruined the world's economy." How did she do that again? By being vice president in control of nothing? Yeah, the actual headlines blaming her for Japan's stock market. Because Japan's stock market is totally dependent on the vice president of the United States. Wow, people are morons. And again, people that write these headlines, they actually go out there and I'm going to get somebody to click on my story with this horrible headline that's completely of no value in the actual story. Yeah, I know. So this is investing.com. Stocks on stabler footing as benchmarks recover most lost ground. This is a news dump, so here we go. Global shares firmed on Friday, capping a roller coaster week on a calmer footing after U.S. jobs data eased concern that the world's biggest economy was headed for a hard landing. Stocks in Japan and elsewhere in Asia gained, taking a cue from Wall Street bounced back on Thursday when data showed U.S. jobless claims fell more than expected last week, suggesting fears the employment market is unraveling were overblown. They say U.S. jobless claims fell more than expected last week. In other words, fewer people became unemployed this last week. So in other words, no recession is on the way, which is kind of disappointing as we hope the interest rates fall. But figures showing that China, the world's number 2 economy, is taking a step back from deflation also underpin the better mood after sharp falls in stock benchmarks globally earlier this week. Oil prices headed for weekly gains around 3% as fears of widening Middle East conflict persisted. The MSCI All County Stock Index was up 0.3% at 784.4 points, recovering much of the ground lost during the week. The benchmark is 5.7 below its lifetime high of 832.35 reached on July 12th, though still up 7.5% for the year. Okay, this index is up 7.5% for the year, and people are panicking. That's not enough return. What are you talking about? 15%?
A percent in economics is a big number. 1% is a lot, so 7 is not enough for these people. Yeah. This is a benchmark of stocks, right? It's the index measuring how much they're worth compared to the first of the year, and the index is up 7.5%, and people are panicking. Shut the fuck up, rich people. You're pissing me off. In Europe, the stocks index, the STOXX index of 600 companies was up 0.7 with the loss for the week all but erased. Again, Monday, these assholes were panicking. Friday, they're like, I'm still filthy rich, just like my friends. Anyway, in a sign of calmer nerves, also known as Wall Street's fear gauge, he didn't put a word here, was in a negative territory, a far cry from its record one-day spike on Monday. The fear gauge was the guy they were reporting on. The overreaction, the hyper-reaction that the hypersensitivity that they always attribute to women, but it's always these guys, Oh my God! Sell! Get rich! Get richer! Divergent central bank interest rate moves, repricing a recession probability in the United States, thinner liquidity in August, accentuating volatility, and Middle Eastern tensions all combined to put the brakes on months-long winning streak in stocks and record highs, analysts said. Oh no, we didn't get record highs. It must be crashing.
Man, we are all still in the month of August, so we can still have some volatility, said Marie Lysak, portfolio manager at Edmund Rothschild Asset Management, read Grifter. Investors will continue to study employment data, keep an eye on the Bank of Japan, and particularly on the annual meeting of global central bankers hosted in Kansas City Fed in Jackson Hole later this month. They have to meet, the Kansas City Fed has to meet in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I don't know why. They just can't have a Zoom meeting. They got to let's all get together and go to a ski resort. Well, they're going to a ski resort in freaking August, but it makes no sense. This year, I think it's really important meeting because we have more insight into what the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell sees in the future, and maybe more insight on a path of lower rates. I think they really want him to lower rates. I think that's why they're panicking. We need you to lower rates. You're causing it's a recession. We need to pull out of this recession we're going into. Anyway, the BOJ's resurgence that will not be hiking interest. The BOJ's resurgence that it will not be hiking interest rates amid market volatility helped sentiment recover. Stocks benchmarks closed at 0.6 higher, erasing most of the losses since the 12.4% crash on Monday. They call it a crash. All it was is a bunch of rich people selling and taking their profits. Calling it a crash. The yen also veered from negative to positive through the session, last trading at 147 per dollar. The MSCI Broad Index in the Asia Pacific shares outside Japan climbed 1.8%, more than reversing the drop from Thursday. For the week, it has reversed earlier losses to be largely flat. The thing you were panicking on Monday never really existed. Also, helping sentiment is Chinese data showing that consumer inflation ran 0.5% in July, above forecasts of a gain of 0.3%, suggesting there is a less risk of the economy sliding into all-right deflation. See, China's fighting deflation. In other words, their money is just, it buys more stuff, but your economy is so weak, there's nothing to buy. The prospect of better than feared U.S. growth and weaker yen constrain the fundamental and technical risks that inspired the extreme volatility experienced at the start of the week. Here's the problem with the markets. They're being driven by AI, which has no practical application that I've discovered that it already isn't being used for. Mm-hmm. And the tech bros, amongst them tech bros are Peter Thiel, who's funding J.D. Vance's entire life. Those tech bros want to sell you on AI and they want to sell you on cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency has no value. Once again, it has no value. The only value cryptocurrency has is whatever you assign to it as a value. If you say it's worth $10,000 and somebody buys it for $10,000, that's what it's worth. If you can't sell it for $10,000 and nobody's buying it, you got to lower your price. And then you lower it again, and then you lower it again until you can sell it. Cryptocurrency has no real value. AI stocks have no real value. They have assigned a potential of making you rich. That's all. You buy at 10 and you sell at 100. That's the reason you buy these stocks. AI has no real practical application that I know of that's going to make anybody rich. It's just the people selling it getting rich, selling the stocks. And oh boy, we got to invest in AI because people hate AI. Every example I've seen of it, people hate it. So I'm not sure why this is driving the stock market. It's a fool's gold, just like crypto is. A fool's gold. You can get rich on anything. You can get rich on. People used to get rich on baseball cards. People used to get rich on Beanie Babies. Those things don't exist anymore. The internet eliminated the value of Beanie Babies completely. They're not even worth what you paid for them when you originally bought them. So that's my little short diatribe on stop acting like the stock market is the real economy. It's not. It's a bunch of speculation. It always will be. It's a gambling casino. It always will be. We should not be guaranteeing these people profits. They should be out there on their own, risking their own money instead of risking, 401ks and everybody's retirement. And now they want now they want Social Security to go play the stock market. No, thank you. It's a house of cards.
Okay, stock market is
diatribe.
stocking. The lines are moving. Yeah.
Yeah, we're supposed to care.
You can't predict it, and people act like they can. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of stocks going down, I think this is definitely an effect of the economy somewhere. France is experiencing one of the weakest wheat harvests in the last 40 years. This is by the World with AFP on Le Monde. The rainy winter has taken its toll on harvest in France. The volume of wheat produced in France could be the lowest in nearly 40 years. The risk of reducing farmers' incomes. France is usually the leading European producer and exporter of soft wheat, the cereal used to make breads and cakes. No! My French bread! This year, harvest is expected to be one of the lowest in the last 40 years. The Statistics Department of the Ministry of Agriculture reported on August 9th. Today, production is estimated at 26.3 million tons, down 23.9% compared to the average of the last 5 years. Not just last year, but the last 5 years average. France thus could face its lowest production since 1987, according to data communicated by the French Minister of Agriculture to Agence France Presse, AFP. A peak was reached in 2015 with 41 million tons. On some farms, the shortfall will be counted in tens of thousands of euros. Wow. Imagine expecting that you're going to be making 40K this year and you're only making 10K this year off of your wheat. That would be scary as hell. Hopefully they're making more than 40K on their wheat, but that's still like, whoa, I'm missing 10,000 euros I was expecting. Sorry, we're not going to summer camp this year. Enough to aggravate the disarray of a profession that has been widely mobilized this winter, notably with motorway blockades to denounce red tape and low incomes. Agricultural unions, including the powerful FNCEA, have already asked the government, even if it resigns, to get to work to help farmers get through this difficult time. As for the 2024 harvest, the situation is no more favorable. Affected by disease caused by humidity as well as by episodes of frost or hail, the harvest is expected to decline in almost all wine growing areas, according to an initial estimate from the Ministry of Agriculture. Wine production will be between 40 and 43 million hectoliters this year, a level 10 to 16% lower than 2023, and 3% to 10% lower than 2019 to 2023 on average, specifies the Ministry's Statistic and Forecasting Department, Agreste. I'm sad to hear about the wine, but I think wine isn't as important as wheat, so I personally don't care if wine production is dropped down. Oh no, my wine! You can live without wine. I know the French people are like, you can't live without wine, but actually, nutritionally, you can live without wine. Wheat, on the other hand, is a very important staple crop for our bodies. Easy carbohydrates, especially bread and stuff like that. Now that's a bit different for me. Many vineyards have been marked by a phenomenon of coulure, fall of flowers or young berries, and sometimes mélandage, variable size of berry. The consequence of humid and cool conditions during flowering, explains the ministry. Mildew, a fungus whose spread in the vines has been encouraged by frequent rains since spring. Affects most wine-growing areas and could cause significant losses, the ministry added. Episodes of frost and hail have also locally reduced production volumes, it reported. All these estimates are provisional, warns the ministry. The harvest has only just begun and will last until the beginning of autumn, so production remains sensitive to the weather. The soils were replenished with water could limit this drop in production, notes the ministry. In France, 48 million hectoliters of wine in 2023. That's 4% more than the previous year, which allowed it to take the place of the world's leading producer ahead of Italy and Spain. I mean, of course, Italy and Spain are having their own problems with droughts, not with having too much water. You win some, you lose some. However, some wine-growing areas are struggling to sell their bottles, as demand for wine tends to decline. Yeah, it's not important. Sorry, guys. You might want to start opening your fields from some other plants. Especially since wheat production has gone down ever since the war in Ukraine happened. I think if I was a farmer, I would have instantly switched to doing bread based stuff, because that grains went super down because of the Ukraine war. Over the last 3 years,
the price goes up and you get a better price in the market.
Yeah. Over the last 3 years, sales volume of red wine has fallen by 15% in mass distribution, by 30% to 5% for white and rosé. Jerome Despay, president of the Specialist Wine and Cider Council at the Public Establishment France Aguirre reminded AFP. He is particularly concerned about the economic difficulties encountered by red wine producers in the southwest, Occitanie and the Rhone Valley. In an attempt to rebalance supply and demand, the Bordeaux region has resigned itself to launching a program for uprooting vines with financial compensation. Requests have been made for a program at the national level, but we still have no response from the European Commission, which must give its approval, comments Jerome Despay. So that's really weird. This article started about talking about wheat, and then it was like, but also there's wine, and it became a wine article. But yeah, I guess if you want to support your local vineyards, buy some local wine in France. But it looks like consumption is going down in general when it comes to consuming wine. Probably people are just drinking less, I think. And yeah, time to become wheat farmers, because it looks like you're gonna need it. That's my story.
Alrighty. So we will talk about the remnants of Hurricane Debbie first of all. Tornado watches issued for parts of New York, New Jersey as Debbie remnants threaten. This is from Lauren Maroney from NBCNewYork.com. First soaking rainfall associated with the remnants of Tropical Depression Debbie is expected to seize the tri-state area Friday, days after powerful storms dumped 2 inches of rain in an hour, and there's even a chance for tornadoes. A tornado watch was issued for more than half a dozen counties in New Jersey, along with Sullivan and Orange counties in New York and Pike County in Pennsylvania. It's in effect through early afternoon. A tornado watch means conditions are favorable for tornado development. Any rain through early Friday will be light and scattered, but as remnants of Debbie pass just west of the tri-state, heavier downpours and strong to severe storms will become an issue. A tornado watch was issued for parts of New York and New Jersey for Friday as the remnants of Debbie push heavy winds and rains into the tri-state. Debbie will push tropical moistures onshore as it moves north and merges with a stalled front. The flood threat in the northeastern U.S. will increase as rain ramps up Friday afternoon and evening as Debbie approaches. Rain and storms pick up in the late afternoon and evening when heavy rain and severe are likely. Rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour are possible, as they were earlier in the week, making floods a chief concern associated with the system in the New York City metro area. Thankfully, Debbie will not stall over the area the way it did along the Carolina coast. Rather, it will move through quickly, keeping rainfall totals in check. By comparison, areas in North and South Carolina picked up close to a foot of rain in 24 hours while Debbie was stalled overhead. So Debbie's heading up to northern Canada later and Greenland, and then it'll just be too damn cold to be a storm anymore. So there's your update, and we're going to talk about our next story. This is about a concept called Stolen Valor, which is basically you're pretending to be in the military, like you're totally pretending. That's what Stolen Valor is. And this is about a guy who was a sergeant major in the Army. Didn't steal any valor, or Army National Guard. Didn't steal any valor from anybody. Did his job, served his country, served his state, and he's got to get crap from other people who didn't serve. You know, that's the amazing part. This is from, like I said, Vox.com. Lee Zhu. I think I've heard that name before. The dubious GOP attacks on Tim Walz's military record briefly explained. Tim Walz is the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. In a bid to undercut Vice President Kamala Harris's newly announced running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Republicans are mounting attacks on his military record. The charges, which a closer look suggests are misleading or exaggerated, are a notable escalation against the Democratic ticket by defendant J. Trump, who didn't serve it anyway in the military. In fact, makes fun of people who went in the military. But we won't attack him. Nah, he's perfect. Jerry. The attacks began in August when Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, which J.D. stands for Juicy Davenport. I don't know. It's J.D. He changes his name all the time. Anyway. Trump's running mate sought to tout his own military experience, which was 4 years in the Marine Corps. Prior to running Congress, Waltz served for 24 years in the Army National Guard, while Vance served for 4 years in the Marine Corps. Neither is seen combat. When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do. So did Tim Waltz, you piece of shit. He suggested that Tim Waltz dropped out of the Army instead of going to Iraq with his unit, which is complete horseshit, and we're so odd. But Vance's sweeping statement contains some key omissions. For instance, Waltz retired in 2005, 2 months before his unit received formal notice it would be sent to Iraq. Another Republican attack on Waltz's service that he misrepresented himself as a retired command sergeant major is also more complicated. While he held that rank at one point, his rank was changed after retirement because he did not complete his required coursework. Again, Republicans don't understand the military because they didn't serve. And even J.D. Vance, as they say, yeah, he was a correspondent. He doesn't understand the military works, even though he was in the military, because he didn't retire. He got up there. When you're in for 24 years and you retire, right? Even though you're a sergeant major, your rank on your epaulet says sergeant major, you have to maintain that rank for 3 years, and you must go to a school, a sergeant major school. If you don't do that, when you retire, they pay you at the previous rank, which was master sergeant. That's why they're saying, oh, he's claiming he was a sergeant major and he retired as a master sergeant. Well, no, because you don't retire at the rank you have. You retire at your most previous rank, unless you served that depends on the rank, for a specific period of time. And Sergeant Major required you to go to major school. He didn't do. He retired after 24 years. A Master Sergeant.
Yeah.
In charge of men, in charge of an entire state's National Guard. Enlisted men. Yet another claim by the Republicans that Waltz misrepresented his service by implying in a past statement that he once served in a combat zone. In that case, the language he used appears to have been imprecise. There is precedent for these type of attacks. Republicans appear to have resorted to the same swift voting tactics they once levied against former Democratic presidential candidate John Kerry. A reference to the small speedboats used in the Vietnam War where Kerry served. The campaign sought to impugn his character by casting doubt on an account of his military service in Japan. Notably, John Kerry went to Vietnam. He didn't have to. He was actually an officer, probably could have got out of combat. The guy he was running against, George W. Bush, got out of combat by going to a flight school in Texas for a plane that was never ever going to be used in war again. And those people on that guy's side attacked somebody that actually went to war. That's how horrible that was. Notably, the architect of that campaign against Kerry was Chris LaCivita, now a prominent staffer on Donald Trump's campaign. They just keep recycling these scumbags. So Chris LaCivita is a piece of shit. Remember that name. Ever hear him say anything in his life, realize he's a piece of shit. Waltz has faced questions about his military service before, including when he ran for Minnesota governor in 2018. In that instance, and this one, he had several veterans defend him as well. Joseph Eustis, 32-year veteran National Guard, told the Minnesota Star Tribune in 22, he's a great soldier, and when he chose to leave, he had every right to leave. The Harris campaign, for its part, responded by stressing Waltz's tenure and policy record. After 4 years of military service, Governor Waltz retired in 2005 and ran for Congress, where he was a tireless advocate for our men and women uniform. That's right. He made things easier for you because he ran for Congress. But don't bring that up. The Harris campaign told Vox in a statement. The campaign also pointed out Waltz's time as a ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee and his support for funding and mental health resources for the military. The claims that Republicans have made about Waltz's focus on 3 issues: his decision to retire from the National Guard, his rank upon retirement, and the comment he made about carrying weapons in war. Claim 1, Waltz retired from the National Guard to avoid serving Iraq. Well, we know, notably, Waltz retired in May 2005, 2 months prior to his unit receiving official deployment to Iraq. He stated in 2009 that his reason for retiring was to pursue a run for the House of Representatives, which he won the following year, to avoid conflicts under the Hatch Act, which bars federal employees from engaging in certain political activities. And of course, if you're, I just got a question for the general public out there. Just throwing this out there. You're in the military, your enlistment is coming up, and you're going to war. What are you going to do? Are you going to re-enlist? How many of you said yes? I bet you it's a low percentage.
Yeah. Would it probably?
Your enlistment coming up, and I'm going to send you to war.
They wouldn't even make it to boot camp.
Well, you're already in. You're already in. Okay?
Yeah.
All that's done. It's in the past. Okay. You're in, you're enlisted, you've done your 4 years. Now your tour's coming up, and you're like, I ain't going to war. I'm going home. I got a wife and kids.
Yeah.
And of course, famously, they did a thing back in the Gulf, in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were going on at the same time. They did a thing called stop loss. But even if you were getting out, they extended you involuntarily. So everybody was getting out whenever they could. And, oh, no, the guy who did 24 years is the only one, even though he was already planning retirement way before his unit deployed. And deployed. So it's absolute nonsense. Walt filed for his run for office before the National Guard had notified his unit of the possibility of a deployment to Iraq. If it's unclear if at the time he already knew, it doesn't even matter. Who cares what he knew? He 4 years and got out. Whether you like it or not, he went to fight for people in the halls of Congress, which is even a bigger fight. Because who's going to take care of the veterans unless Congress does? Nobody is. The VA is run poorly. It's always run poorly. Anyway, so we debunked that. And the other one was Harris campaign misrepresented his title by stating he's a retired command sergeant major. And here, that's what he was. Republicans argue this is an inaccurate description of his title. The phrase has now been changed to Harris' campaign website to note that his title was the highest rank he earned. What we know, he did in fact attain the position of command sergeant major. However, after retired, his title was changed to master sergeant because he did not finish the coursework to retire, and he did not, and they don't include it here. You have to also have the rank for a certain period of time, and I believe sergeant majors is the highest enlisted rank. You have to be there 3 years, and he was made up his mind. He was tired of Congress approving stupid wars, so he ran for Congress. How about that? Waltz misrepresented his involvement in combat. We can make sure those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place those weapons are at. Waltz said remarks about assault weapons in 2018. Nothing he said this week or this month, something he said 6 years ago. Vance argues that Waltz's statements imply that he was in combat when he wasn't. Well, Waltz was deployed as part of a National Guard to Vicenza, Italy in August 2003 as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. Was not in a combat zone. Was he carrying a weapon? Yes, he was. That's all you do. That's your job. You carry a weapon. The phrasing of the statement in his gun control remarks suggesting that he carried weapons in war was imprecise. While technically correct, given the operation was part of, it appears to suggest an experience he didn't have. Waltz openly acknowledged in the other images that he hadn't seen combat while deployed. The Harris campaign stressed Waltz's training with firearms in response in 24 years of service. The government fired and trained officers in the use of weapons of war innumerable times. He's also the Congressional Skeet Shooting Championship. So, J.D. Vance never fought in a war either. Never even got his fingernails dirty. Probably didn't even ruin his pedicure. Probably never even got his boots dusty.
Yeah.
But he's over here telling somebody else that By the way, you are currently kissing the butt of a guy who ridicules prisoners of war. But go ahead, tell us about it. Tell us about Tim Waltz's phoniness. Okay, go on. Fine, let's have it. You're kissing Donald Trump, who got out of the Vietnam War for bone spurs. Had somebody else take his SATs. But hey, oh yeah, That's all good, everybody. Don't look at them. Don't look at the con man over here who can't complete a sentence without sounding like a buffoon. Anyway, there's your story on so-called stolen valor. And
okay. Yeah, it's really stupid. Like I was saying earlier before the show started, these are just people who want to feel better than you. I'm better than you, and this is how. And I'm gonna make up reasons why you're lesser than me. And now everyone's gonna think I'm great and you're bad. And it's just all
right,
just
because
machismo, really. Let me pound my chest. Everyone, look at me. I'm amazing. Have you ever seen that meme where it's
I watched
the guy
Kamala Harris speech yesterday,
like, screaming into the sky, and he's kissing a girl, and he's like spraying the champagne, and he's like third place on the podium? Have you ever seen that meme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
That's
are these
what that
people
is.
celebrating winning third? Yeah. Well.
So weird. This guy's
The
not
same
shit.
people. They're the same people that got mad.
He's not shit. Okay. I'm gonna make up a bunch of things that happened to prove he's not shit. Okay, and he doesn't deserve to be vice president. I should be vice president. I'm better than him. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't even know what JD Vance's backstory is. It sounds completely made up. All of it.
Didn't
So I don't
that
know. He's
clip,
attacking
that mic drop
anybody.
we had a couple days ago say he was like just a Silicon Valley investment or whatever? Like he just got a bunch of money from some people. He went to Ivy League schools and stuff.
Yeah, he went to Yale.
Yeah.
He went to Yale, became an investment banker, a vulture capitalist, which is basically
Even worse.
purchasing
than anything.
companies to lay everybody off.
Yeah.
And caught the eye of the guy, one of the owners of PayPal, Peter Thiel. He wasn't a founder or nothing. He's just one of the main investors, and he's just a tech bro. So too much money, giving it to this piece of shit to fund his entire Senate campaign. That's how he got in the Senate. In fact, JD Vance ran for the Senate, and he got like 5 percentage points less in Ohio than Trump got on the same ballot. Right? They're on the same ballot. People were going, Trump got to the Senate, either skipped it or checked another box. Even though they checked Trump at the top, they did not check JD Vance. They said, oh, fuck no. So what does that tell you? That tells you that he's even popular in Trump land. He's not popular in the Republican Party. He's who knows what program he's undergone, right?
That's what he is. And he's doing it in the...
He's a Manchurian candidate.
He's doing it inside of the actual...
He's done nothing. His one claim to fame is writing a book, which completely disses the people he supposedly represents. Yeah. So that's his claim to fame. The Hillbilly Elegy, which Ron Howard made a movie out of, which everybody in Appalachia is like, boy, Hollywood hates us. It wasn't Hollywood, it was JD Vance hates you. Guy from Ohio. Anyway.
Okay, let's go to my culture story, which is about sugarcane farms and indigenous people. I know this is completely random, but I saw it and I want to talk about it because it's something I care about myself. This is from Veronica Esposito on The Guardian. Residential schools for indigenous children have been a stain on the histories of both the United States and Canada. Although steps have been taken in making amends in the past, the new documentary Sugarcane reveals just how much of the process still remains incomplete. These schools operated throughout the 19th and 20th century, with Canada's last residential school only closing in 1997, and they have been referred to as sites of attempted cultural genocide against Indigenous people. For many children, attendance at these schools was compulsory, forcing them to travel far away from their homes, where they were systematically separated from their language, their culture, and suffered various forms of abuse for not just allowing themselves to be separated. I don't want to stop speaking my language. Well, that means you're going to get paddled in the backyard for 5 minutes. Attendance at these schools has been linked to serious mental health consequences, including elevated rates of depression, substance use, and suicide. New light was recently shed on the level of atrocities that occurred at residential schools when in 2021 it was revealed that potential unmarked graves had been discovered on the site where the former Kamloops Indian residential school once stood. It was the news that spearheaded the creation of the documentary Sugarcane, which investigates the residential school St. Joseph's mission. Revelations of Sugarcane are many, but perhaps the most shocking one is the evidence that the filmmakers bring forth that infanticide was practiced at this school, where the bodies of children of women abused by Catholic priests were incinerated on school grounds. As it turns out, this horrific discovery has serious implications for co-director Julian Brave Noisecat, whose father, Archie, may have been the only survivor of these events. Julian makes the courageous decision to place himself into the movie, and we see his father and son slowly work through years of estrangement and decades of history to learn the facts about how Archie came into this world. And maybe also why they had such an estranged relationship, right? Finding out that you're some sort of Catholic priest rape child in a school that is built to erase your entire identity away from you is definitely gonna mess you up in that, like, in life. How are you supposed to live life normally when you don't even know what a normal life is? Noisecat is possibly the most compelling of the four entwined narratives that the movie follows, which include Chief Rick Gilbert, who travels to the Vatican seeking redress for the church's action, investigator Charlene Bellew, who painstakingly pieces together exactly what happened at the school, and Chief Willie Sellers, who has organized and led the inquiry into the school's history. Although the residential schools have had an immense impact on Noisecat's family, he shares a video interview that much of his life he knew virtually nothing about his grandmother's experience there as a young girl. During summers visiting with her, she would offer the strange story of how she and her fellow female students would say to one another, "The black bear is coming," whenever they saw one of the school's priests or nuns. "All I got from my grandmother was this very cryptic accounting of her experience at the residential school," Noisecat said, where she said that people who were supposed to be looking out for us were predators. Noisecat's story about his grandmother indicates the large silence surrounding these schools, even within the indigenous community. And this is one of the reasons why the documentary is so important. According to Noisecat, Sugarcane contradicts the popular view among many in the media that residential schools are well known and thoroughly discussed within indigenous communities. "Every time I heard this," he told me, "I thought, this doesn't ring true to my experience." Indeed, when Noisecat and his co-director Emily Casey attempt to discuss the school within the community, they are largely met with silence. As the film explores, part of the trauma faced by indigenous people is that things they suffered at schools left them speechless. Without a language to discuss the event or people with whom they could share their experience, one of the keys to processing and overcoming this past is to learn to talk about it. And for those who suffered, to tell the story in their own terms, both in terms of constructing this narrative and encouraging others to do so, Sugarcane is a powerful intervention for the health of the community. One of the strengths of Sugarcane is how Noisecat and Casey let their reality make its presence felt throughout the documentary. The movie plunges viewers right into the heart of the story, preferring the texture of the lived experience of the indigenous people over a more straightforward accounting of exactly what happened. "Jules and I talk a lot about what the silence meant, and also reflects the pacing of this world," Casey told. "This is really what the world feels like. It was very important to us that it felt representative of what we were seeing and feeling." Because of these choices, Sugarcane is a movie that moves at a very deliberate pace. This may challenge some viewers accustomed to punchier rhythms, although this choice gives space to the silence that continues to permeate the community. And it makes the few words that do eventually escape feel hard-earned and substantial. "We didn't want to tell a story from 10 feet away," Casey said. "We wanted to tell it from people living it." This makes Sugarcane extremely effective at reflecting the large challenges still faced by the indigenous community as it begins to long, difficult work of confronting its trauma by piecing together the story and speaking about what happened at these residential schools. As the film makes clear, this is very much an ongoing story. When Gilbert heads to the Vatican to have an audience with the bishop, he does not receive an apology, but responds that this is not enough, noting that the Bible says that apologies are only the first step in the righting a wrong. He tells the bishop, "There have been apologies, but nothing has happened." This nothing is a significant part of the systematic failure that traumatizes the attendees of the residential schools. Sugarcane notes how attempts were made at the time to report the children were being abused at schools, but these reports fell on deaf ears. The attempted infanticide of Noisecat's father was reported to police, but nothing ever happened. "This was reported to the police along with records of other victims," Casey said, "like finding a body of a baby in a shoebox, and other accounts of babies being taken and forced into adoptions. Nothing was done to follow up on these crimes." In fact, of Sugarcane reports, the only person to face any criminal liability was the baby's mother, who was sentenced to a year in jail for neglect of her child. Okay, it's too late for many of the Catholic priests who abuse children in the residential schools to be held accountable. Why is it too late? Is there a limit on when they did it, I guess? But simply sharing the truth of what happened can still have powerful healing effect. Noisecat has discussed how screenings of the film often end with audience members experiencing catharsis, and the film documents how the process of being involved with this project has helped many process and overcome their trauma. That's why I love documentaries, by the way, the catharsis of just like, wait, we're all humans, we're all going through stuff, and it's all shared experience, and no one's alone in this world. Even if you think you're the only one going through something very specific, there's somebody out there, unfortunately, who may be going through the same thing, and they will find you. This film is also about the resilience and the love of the community and the families that you see here, said Noisecat. They have endured in spite of how these schools were designed to tear families apart. You can watch Sugarcane in cinemas now in the US, and also coming to the UK in the 20th of September. So if you live in any of those places, check out this film and learn and educate yourself about how awful these residential schools were towards the people that found themselves trapped in them. That's my story, and on to this day in history.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah. Awful. I'm lucky to not experience such a thing. That's all I can say. If I was born in Canada in 1994, I could have had 4 years in a residential school, because it didn't close until 1997, you know?
And odds of you being born in Canada are astronomical, but yeah. This day in history, in 1173, in Pisa, Italy, construction began on the bell tower that became internationally famous as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Back then it was just called the Tower in Pisa, or the Bell Tower of Pisa, or whatever. This is before it started to lean. I wonder when it started to lean. I want to notice it. The next day, a week later, it's like one of those 100-year war questions. When did they name the 100-year war? 1814 on this day, defeated by the U.S. General Andrew Jackson, the Creek Indians signed the Treaty of Fort Jackson, requiring to cede 23 million acres of land, comprising more than half of Alabama and part of southern Georgia. So Andrew Jackson doing his shitty work. 1854, Henry David Thoreau's masterwork Walden was published. In 1896, Russian dancer and innovative choreographer Leonid Massin, one of the most important figures of the 20th century dance, was born in Moscow. And also in 1945, the second atomic bomb dropped on Japan by the United States in World War II struck the city of Nagasaki. So death and destruction above on this day. 79 years ago. 1969, another tragedy. American actress Sharon Tate and 4 others were murdered by followers of Charles Manson, leader of the communal religious cult known as The Family. Charles Manson, who was once the craziest person in the world, now Donald Trump owns that title alone. 1974, Gerald Ford was sworn in as the President of the United States. Richard Nixon, who had resigned, and Gerald Ford made the big mistake of pardoning him, because if he would have stood trial, we would all solve this whole presidential immunity nonsense 50 years No, Gerald Ford had to do a little sweetheart deal where he let the criminal get away with it. In 1988, on this day, Canadian hockey player Wayne Gretzky was traded from Edmonton Oilers to the Los Angeles Kings, a deal that shocked the sports world and stunned his home country, where he was a national icon. But the Edmonton Oilers are tiny little Edmonton. They can only pay Wayne Gretzky so much money. The Los Angeles Kings could pay him a lot more. So his contract was up. He wasn't going to stay in Edmonton. People in Edmonton were fooling themselves if they thought he was. So Edmonton got all they could in a trade. 1995, American musician Jerry Garcia passed away. He personified the hippie counterculture for 3 decades as a mellow leader of the rock band The Grateful Dead. He was 53. Jerry Garcia did a lot of drugs, and they did him in at 53. A lot of heavy drugs, not just the weed and the acid. He did the bad stuff.
He did the bad
2014, Michael Brown, an unarmed African. Yeah. He got hooked on the smack, he did. He went into rehab probably 12 times. And according to Jerry Garcia, that's where he got more smack, at rehab, because there are a bunch of addicts there, you know, and they all want to get the stuff. And they sneak it in. So, celebrity rehab's always been a bit of a scam, and that just proves it. 2014, Michael Brown, an unarmed African-American teenager, was fatally shot by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, resulting in days of civil unrest and protests fueled by tensions between Ferguson's predominantly black population and its predominantly white government and police departments. So that was 10 years ago. Cop just decided a guy that was 20 feet away from him was dangerous, so they shot him.
I can't believe that's 10 years ago.
He's 20 feet away. I have a gun, but I'm afraid. Uh-huh. You have a gun, but you're afraid. Got it. Anyway.
What a loser.
Our featured event. Yeah, tell me about it. Do not join the police force if you don't like fearing for your safety. Like, if that's your thing, don't have a job where you can just kill people. I mean, it's kind of like, maybe they should weed these people out somehow in some kind of psychological profile.
That would be a lot of paperwork.
Nah, you put them in stressful situations without a gun and see how they handle it. That's what I would do. I would do that over and over again. Yeah, I would hone these. You know, these people are supposed to be trusted by the public, not just, I'm going to shoot my problems away, and then we'll cover it up and lie in court about it. That's not what we play the police for. Anyway, our featured event in 48 BC, Pompeii was defeated by Julius Caesar at the Battle of Pharsalus. Yeah, long before Pompeii was covered in ash, it was defeated by Julius Caesar during the Roman Civil War of 49 to 45 BCE. Julius Caesar's troops on this day in 48 BCE defeated the army of Pompey in the Battle of Pharsalus.
Good thing we have those
causing Pompey to flee to Egypt,
history,
where he was subsequent. Oh, Pompey is a person. Okay. Pompey is a person.
Yeah, you don't know Pompey, dude? Oh, yeah, you didn't take Latin class for 2 years like I did. Yeah, Pompey was a famous...
causing Pompey to flee to Egypt.
Famous
where he was
ruler guy, yeah. He has a statue. Right. He has one of those head statues, you know? You put him on one of those pillars. Pompey.
Yeah, I took Greek mythology 100 years ago.
It's not mythology. This is history.
Causing Pompey to flee... Oh, history, okay.
This is real. Okay.
Well, anyway, Pompey fled... Okay. Causing Pompey to flee to Egypt, where he was subsequent... Okay, I'm going to finish the sentence yet. Causing Pompey to flee to Egypt, where he was subsequently murdered. So I thought they were talking about the city of Pompeii at the base of Mount Vesuvius, which be a little bit more clear in your titling. Probably it's spelled different.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Our featured biographer, Amedeo Avogadro, Italian physicist, born August 9th in 1776 in Turin, Sardinia, and died July 9th, 1856 in Turin. The same place he was born. And what?
We're talking about Romans, and then this guy is Italian. Like the guy.
Well, this is in the 1800s, so way after the Roman Empire. Other birthdays today: P.L. Travers, British author, born in 1899. Excuse me, it's Whitney Houston's birthday today. She was born in 1963, so if she was around, she would be 61 today. It's also the birthday of Deion Sanders, American football and baseball player, which they're leaving out. He's an actual coach now with the Colorado State Buffaloes. So Deion Sanders, who recently had his foot amputated, was born in this day in 1967. Happy birthdays to Neon Deion Sanders, coach, which they leave out his biography for some unknown reason. 1968, Gillian Anderson was born, American actress who was in X-Files. We did David Duchovny's birthday the other day, so their birthdays are quite close to each other. So she was born in 1968. So she's turning 56 today. And it's Audrey Tauto's birthday, French actress born in 1976. And what day is it today? It is National Book Lovers Day. Oh, I love a good book. Books are the best. National Rice Pudding Day. National Veep Day. That's short for Vice President. I know that because there's a picture of the Vice Presidential podium with nobody standing behind it. So National Veep Day and National Passionfruit Day. So those are your days for today. Not a whole lot going on. Get a book, some rice pudding, some passion fruit, and watch a speech by Kamala Harris. She gave a great speech yesterday that the media completely ignored. It was a positive speech in the Union Hall in Detroit, and it was a really good speech, really emotional, really passionate. It happened right after the Donald Trump sham news conference. News media switched right from the sham news conference to something else, even though Kamala Harris is making a speech live. Nobody covered it because the news media in the United States is completely full of shit. They cover Trump making absolutely no news, saying nothing new, basically lying for an hour and a half, and ignored the vice president. Well, today's Veep Day. Do not ignore the vice president. She has something important to say, and you should hear it. Okay. Not a bunch of babbling from some old guy. Anyway, those are your stories for today. Those are your days for today, August 9th, 2024, on Before Rice Pudding.
This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. I hope you guys have a good Friday and a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as we're trying to get almost at 100 subscribers here on this very small father and daughter podcast here. And turn on those notification bell and like the video so the algorithm knows that you love us. We will see you on Monday for Mucking Fun Day so we can talk about all the crap that's gone on over the weekend. Here is our mic drop moment.
You started at 12?
I started at 12 and I think I ended at 2:16 or something. I didn't want to play the whole thing.
Yes, this is the 49th anniversary. I'm sorry. It was 95. So it was the 29th anniversary of Jerry Garcia dying. He's been gone for that long.
And now he's playing as a skeleton.
Yeah, no, the Grateful Dead, right? Dead people are skeletons. I think he's the only member. Well, there's two members of the band dead, I guess. Although Pig, what's his name, died a long time ago.
Who? He's smoking. Like, actually smoking.
I see you've got your list out. Say your piece and get out. Yes, I get the gist of it, but
yeah, Pigpen was the worst member to dead to die.
They could have just not done that.
I know, right? This was their first top 10 hit, and it didn't happen until the 80s or the 90s. Might have been in the 90s.
I don't
They
know
were
if
commercially
how many
successful.
Passionfruit songs I even know. They're really going
Well, you might know
crazy. The song
Truckin'.
isn't going that hard, but they're going crazy. They're all chugged up in the crowd.
Not a lot of people realize they had two
It's
drummers.
a lesson to me. The deltas and the east and the freeze.
Of course, Jerry was famously missing fingers, or a finger.
We all think of try to live a little.
Throwing a rose.
No, the rent is in arrears. The dog's not been fed in years. It's even worse than it appears, but
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.